and our focus is helping the dealer channel. We've been doing this for about 15 years with your human resources and organization development challenges. So today as I talk, my goal is to have you walk away with one or two ideas that you can take back and implement in your business. And for those of you who have seen me present before, it is a lot more fun and interesting if you guys are asking questions, participating, contributing as we see fit. As we go through the presentation today, there are really two focuses that we're going to have. The first one is really how do you fill the top of the talent acquisition funnel? That's probably the number one challenge I'm hearing today is, Sally, I can't find good candidates. It's been really, really, really hard to try to find those candidates. So we're going to talk about some strategies today to help you think about how might you approach this in today's environment. In addition to that, at the bottom of the funnel is really how do we retain, once we get the good people on board, what can I do to retain these people? We've all heard of the Great Resignation, and it is real. And so we're going to talk about a strategy today that you can take back and implement to how do I try to keep my very best people and know what they're thinking. Now in the middle of the funnel, normally a lot of times I talk about how do you interview people and how do you put together the right offer, and we're going to skip that for today. So today's presentation is really about how do I fill the funnel and how do I then keep them once I've got them. So unfortunately, this first slide is a little bit of bad news, but a little bit of good news. The bad news is there is no silver bullet out there in terms of finding people. There's no one magic thing that I'm going to give you today that says this is now how you need to go find candidates. But we will talk about a series of things that you can do to put together to find those candidates. The good news is this is within your control. I fundamentally believe that your ability to find people is in your control, especially as owners and leaders within the department. And so what I'm going to ask you to do today is really think strategically. When you think about your business, right, think about how much time you spend thinking about sales, putting together a plan for sales, focusing on sales, measuring sales, right? When I think about hiring people, I think it's a great analogy to sales. I want you to really think about, I need to put my time, energy, effort into finding people, tracking people, and holding my leaders accountable for that. Let me ask you, how many of you have a plan, a 12-month plan from a staffing perspective? 12 months from now, you do? Tell me a little bit more about what you're doing there.
Well, we just lay it out on a spreadsheet, and we add a person, plan them out one quarter, second quarter, whatever it might be, and then we assign a number of units and the average, selling price of the unit, and then we try to track their progress against that.
Perfect. And so you're tracking against that. That was the thing out here. So I encourage you to keep a rolling 12-month calendar. You guys know, right? You know what kind of turnover you're going to have in sales just based on past history. From a service perspective, one of the biggest things I'm hearing today is the aging workforce in the service department, right? Are you thinking about that now and really planning for that? So as leaders, I would encourage you to put together that 12-month strategic staffing plan and then make it a great focus for your company. Track it, communicate it, monitor it, and that will help you in terms of really filling that funnel. Okay, so there are literally hundreds of ways that you can find candidates these days. What I did was try to summarize them in what I would call the top 10. And what we'll do today is in this presentation is I'll just give you a high-level overview of each one, and then we'll apply some of these, and then we'll go into more detail in each one of them. So the first one, recruiters. You guys, I am not a recruiter, but I do believe that recruiters have their place, and we're going to talk about that. The second way we can find candidates real quickly is posting jobs, job ads, both within the industry, outside the industry. Third way is resume database searches. Is anyone doing this today where you can actually buy into resume databases and go out and find candidates? Okay, we're going to talk, that's a pretty good avenue, we'll talk about that. LinkedIn search is a big way to find passive candidates today. Career fairs, this is both college career fairs as well as special industry career fairs that you can go find candidates. College recruiting, obviously, social media is a big part of passive candidate recruiting. Getting referrals, which by the way is the #1 source typically of finding really good candidates, so we'll spend some time on that as well. Open houses, hosting lunch and learns, tech talks, those kinds of things. And then finally, personal networking and the talent bank. Now, I've got there the rule of three. Who can predict for me what I mean by the rule of three? Anyone? All right. So, in the past, we used to be able to post an ad, do one thing, post an ad, get resumes, pick the best of the best that we saw in the resumes, and hire somebody, right? Those days are long gone. So the rule of three that I want you to apply today is I'm gonna, for every position that I have open in my company, I'm gonna find a minimum of 3 ways that I'm going to try to attract those candidates to my company. And when you're doing that, when I'm working with organizations, there are 4 questions I ask, and I'm gonna have you guys, everyone just right now, think of a job that you have open in your company or you know that is gonna come open. Okay, and on a sheet of paper, if you'd answer these 4 questions for me. The first one is, how quickly does the role need to be filled? Do you need to fill it today, yesterday, a year from now? How quickly does it need to be filled? The second question is, how much experience is required in this role? Can I take somebody fresh out of college or from high school, or do I need somebody with a few years experience or a lot of years of experience? The third one is, how much time does somebody in my company have to devote to recruiting? Some of you may have recruiters on staff, some of you may have HR. Andy told me last night that most organizations are trying to stay small enough that they don't have to hire the HR people because apparently they're not well liked. So how much time can somebody spend in sourcing? And then the fourth one is, how much money will you put towards sourcing? Okay, got those questions answered on the open position? Okay, now this is group activity time, right? So now, can I have a volunteer? What I want to do is show you how this rule of 3 works. So if you have an open position or a position that you're thinking about that you want to fill, would you be willing to volunteer and share the answers to those 4 questions? We're going to help you find somebody. Volunteer? All right, I'm going to have to make one up. So a common one that I hear is, Sally, I want to find a new sales rep. I work for James Imaging. I'm going to be Tom Tegeter. I'm going to pick on you, Tom. So I want to hire a new sales rep, right? I'm really looking for that person who has 2 to 3 years of experience, who's energetic and motivated, right? Does this sound familiar for some of you? So based on that in the past, what have you typically done to try to find that person? Anybody? Tom, what have you done in the past to try to find that person?
Try to source on LinkedIn, try to get referrals through other sales reps that are around that age.
Yep, very good. So the first thing that Tom said is source LinkedIn. And if the answer to the prior question, if I'm looking at this and saying, hey, listen, I've got some time to fill the role, I'm just trying to fill the funnel, just like I do in sales, right? If I've got some time to fill the funnel, I want that 2 to 3 years of experience, I've got some time. I'm going to hold my managers accountable for sourcing this person, and I'm not going to spend a boatload of money for this, right? If that were the situation and you're trying to hire that person, the first thing that I would do is go to LinkedIn. And there's a specific search that I'm going to teach you a little bit later on where you can actually go into LinkedIn and you can look for local colleges that have sales programs. And then based on that, you can search the criteria and say, okay, I'm looking for somebody who went to this college during these years that graduated, that maybe got a degree in sales and is actually doing sales today. And you know what? Magically, these people will appear in that search. So that would be the first way that I would go and try to find those candidates. The second thing that I would do is I would probably do that resume database search, right? I would go in, I would pay into ZipRecruiter or one of those strategies, and I would go look for resumes because they may be in there from when they graduated. And I can look and say, okay, what do I like about that person, or maybe a year or 2 into their career? What do I like about that person? Now I've got the resume, now I can contact them. And the third way, Tom, that you talked about is referrals. For that kind of an approach, I always think about if you've got a workforce who's around that age, or some people around that age, right? Who do they know? Everybody that they know can be a potential candidate for your company. So that's just one example, you guys. Really think about when you're going to recruit, right? What are the 3 ways that either I'm going to recruit personally or I'm going to hold my leaders accountable for recruiting? and then hold them accountable, right? Let's make sure that we're actually following through and following up. The other thing along with that is track success, right? Track how many candidates you're getting, track the conversion ratio. It'll just help you be more efficient as you go forward in the future.